He had regular bowel movements for many years and believed he was completely normal, until the day he saw with his own eyes something that had been inside his body for decades. In that moment, every belief he had about his health collapsed. My name is Ethan Marshall. I am a 60-year-old physician living and working in the United States, specializing in holistic health, and here is a statement that makes many people pause the first time they hear it. You can have a bowel movement every day, eat what is considered a healthy diet, and still be carrying things inside your body that have been silently accumulating for decades without you ever realizing it. Before we go further into this story, if you are interested in content that helps you understand your body more clearly, more realistically, and more sustainably over time, please subscribe to the channel, hit like, and share this video to support us in continuing to create high-quality content for long-term health. Over more than 30 years of practice, I have met many people like John, a 60-year-old man with no serious illness, no obvious digestive disorder, who had regular daily bowel movements and firmly believed his digestive system was completely normal. This is also a common belief among most middle-aged and older adults. As long as they can go to the bathroom, everything inside must be fine. John once told me he had never really thought about his colon because it had never caused him any significant trouble. No pain, no emergencies, no alarming warning signs. And that was enough for him to feel reassured for many years. Yet that very sense of reassurance is what causes many people to overlook an important reality. The body is remarkably good at adapting and enduring, to the point that it can carry heavy burdens without expressing them outwardly through obvious pain. In clinical observation and in natural health systems, the colon is not merely a waste pipe, but the organ that most accurately reflects whether the body is truly able to eliminate what it no longer needs. Many people focus intensely on what they should eat and what they should supplement, but almost never stop to ask a more fundamental question. Where are the old, excess, unnatural substances in my body actually going? John was no different. Before his experience began, he fully believed he was doing everything necessary for his health. And it was precisely from that belief in being normal that the story that followed truly unfolded, not through theory, but through what he saw with his own eyes coming from his own body. Before moving on to the next part, I want you to take a few seconds to ask yourself a simple question and comment with your choice below. A. I believe that as long as I have regular bowel movements, my digestion is fine. Or B. I am beginning to question whether normal really means truly clean. The turning point in John's story did not come from an acute illness or a troubling diagnosis, but from an experiential decision to try colon cleansing in order to better understand what was happening inside his body. At first, this decision carried no great expectations, because for someone who had regular bowel movements and no obvious digestive issues, colon cleansing is often seen as unnecessary. Yet it was precisely this sense of unnecessary that opened the door to a profound shift in awareness. From the very first sessions, what was eliminated far exceeded anything he had previously imagined. Instead of only familiar waste, the process revealed the presence of unusual substances, causing the concept of normal that he had trusted for years to begin to crack. The experience was not grotesque, but it was visual and undeniable enough to create a shock of realization. Daily bowel movements do not fully reflect what is actually happening inside the intestines. In clinical observations and in the literature on colon care, many similar cases have been documented, in which individuals only truly confront their internal stagnation when faced with direct evidence from a cleansing process. In this context, colon cleansing ceases to be merely a technical procedure and becomes an awakening experience, forcing the individual to reevaluate long-held assumptions about their own health. Notably, the surprise did not come from immediate physical sensations, but from the contrast between old beliefs and newly revealed reality. When what was assumed to have been completely eliminated appeared in a different form, a new question emerged. Is the body holding on to more than we think? This experience also highlights the silent nature of accumulation, as the body can adapt to the presence of old waste without sending clear warning signals. In this light, colon cleansing acts as a point of interruption, breaking the familiar state and compelling a confrontation with internal reality. For John, this was the moment when trust in subjective feeling was replaced by awareness grounded in direct observation. This shift did not occur through theory or advice, but through personal experience, where what was seen became irrefutable evidence. From this turning point, the story moved into a new phase, in which questioning the nature of what had been eliminated became central, opening the way to a deeper understanding of what had been silently present in the body for many years. What was eliminated during John's experience called for serious analysis, as it did not align with the conventional concept of waste typically understood in modern digestive physiology. These substances appeared as dark, mucus-like masses, with a dense, tough, elastic texture, clearly distinct from freshly formed stool resulting from recent meals. Their elongated shape, curved in accordance with the structure of the intestinal tract, indicated that they were not random byproducts of a short-term process, but the result of long-term accumulation and molding over time. In natural physiological systems, this phenomenon is explained as the formation of old mucus layers that adhere tightly to the intestinal walls, gradually drying and compacting over many years. When mucus-forming foods are introduced continuously, the intestines respond by secreting protective substances to reduce irritation. But over time, this protective layer becomes a repository for residues that are not fully eliminated. These accumulations do not lie freely within the intestinal lumen, but lodge deep within folds, curves, and areas of reduced peristalsis, allowing them to coexist with regular daily bowel movements. This characteristic creates a common paradox. Elimination appears to be functioning, yet the colon is not truly clean. In the literature on colon care and natural elimination physiology, such long-standing accumulations are regarded as products of the body's prolonged adaptation to an unfavorable internal environment. They do not cause acute pain or obvious symptoms in their early stages, but quietly occupy space, hinder natural peristalsis, and reduce elimination efficiency. The dark coloration and distinctive odor of these mucus masses reflect prolonged oxidation, fermentation, and biochemical transformation, markedly different from the properties of newly formed waste. The fact that they can be expelled as intact formations demonstrates their degree of adhesion and structural conformity to the intestines, reinforcing the conclusion that this is not a temporary phenomenon. Within this analytical framework, mucoid rope is not treated as a metaphorical concept, but as a visual description of a specific physiological state, the existence of old waste layers that have become a fixed component of the internal colonic environment. Understanding this helps explain why many individuals can maintain a sense of normalcy for extended periods while still harboring significant internal accumulations. This analysis is not intended to provoke fear, but to establish a clear foundation of awareness. Not everything retained within the body is eliminated according to normal biological rhythms, and some forms of waste are only revealed when conditions allow for sufficiently deep cleansing to bring them to the surface. After the old layers of waste were removed, the changes did not occur in a dramatic, instantaneous manner, but rather manifested as a series of clear and consistent physiological adjustments. The first noticeable effect was a sense of overall lightness, not merely subjective, but indicative of a genuine reduction in load within the elimination system. When the colon no longer has to carry long-standing accumulations, mechanical and biochemical pressure on related organs decreases, allowing the body to redistribute energy more efficiently. In this context, an increase in energy is observed as a logical outcome, as energy previously devoted to managing internal burden is freed for restorative and maintenance functions. Alongside this shift in energy levels came a marked improvement in chronic symptoms that had persisted for years. Manifestations such as dull lower back pain, recurring headaches, or a vague sense of heaviness gradually diminished and disappeared, illustrating the connection between prolonged intestinal stagnation and dysfunction in other bodily systems. In natural physiological models, this phenomenon is explained by a reduction in internal inflammatory stimuli and a decreased toxic load being reabsorbed into the bloodstream. When the blood no longer carries byproducts of decomposition arising from old waste, the internal environment becomes more stable, enabling organs to function under less stress. Notably, these improvements were not associated with additional nutritional supplementation or direct treatment of symptoms, but emerged after the primary obstructive factor was removed. This reinforces the understanding that many chronic disturbances do not necessarily arise from deficiency, but from the persistent presence of elements incompatible with natural physiology. In practical observations of colon care, the disappearance of chronic symptoms following cleansing is often accompanied by greater mental clarity and physical stability, reflecting the close relationship between elimination function and overall systemic state. This process does not unfold identically in every individual, but the common thread is a shift from a state of endurance to one of greater balance. When the colon is freed from old accumulations, the body's capacity for self-regulation can gradually be restored, rather than continually compensating for silent disturbances. Therefore, the changes observed after elimination should not be viewed as short-term effects, but as indications that the body is responding positively once a long-standing obstructive factor has been removed, opening the possibility for sustained improvement if foundational conditions continue to be appropriately maintained. When considering the entire story from its beginning to its final outcome, it becomes clear that the central meaning does not lie in the technique of colon cleansing or in the form of what was eliminated, but in a fundamental shift in how the concept of normal is understood. John's case illustrates an important reality. The absence of acute symptoms and the presence of regular elimination are not sufficient indicators that the elimination system is functioning optimally. For many years, the idea of being normal has been constructed around the absence of obvious pain, while silent accumulation processes continue internally without recognition. Direct, visual experience plays a decisive role in breaking this belief, because only when confronted with concrete evidence does perception truly change. This story highlights the distinction between a body that is merely adapting to endure and a body that is operating in a clean and balanced state. Carrying old layers of waste over long periods does not necessarily produce acute disorders, but it creates a less favorable physiological foundation in which organs must constantly compensate and adapt. When this accumulated factor is removed, improvement is not merely felt, but reflects a reorganization of the entire internal regulatory system. From a cognitive perspective, the core message of the story is not to promote a specific action, but to emphasize the importance of re-examining long-held assumptions about health. Believing that the body is fine simply because no serious problem has yet appeared can lead to delayed recognition of underlying functional decline. John's experience demonstrates that lasting change often begins with the moment one recognizes the gap between what is felt subjectively and what actually exists internally. This conclusion also implies that health is not only the result of adding or intervening from the outside, but is deeply dependent on the ability to remove what no longer aligns with natural physiology. When elimination is neglected, the body is forced to maintain a fragile balance based on adaptation, rather than on a clean, unobstructed foundation. Therefore, this story should not be understood as an isolated case, but as an illustration of a broader principle. What is unseen often exerts greater influence than what is easily noticed. The final message serves as a gentle yet clear reminder that belief is truly established only through direct experience, and that understanding the body's internal state is a foundational step toward building a conscious, long-term approach to health that aligns with natural laws. John's story brings to light an important reality that is often overlooked. The normal state many people trust may simply be the result of prolonged adaptation, rather than a body that is truly clean and balanced. Regular bowel movements and the absence of acute symptoms do not necessarily mean the elimination system is operating optimally. Old layers of waste can accumulate silently over many years without causing obvious pain, until a sufficiently direct experience breaks the old belief. The changes in lightness, energy, and the disappearance of chronic symptoms suggest that once accumulated burden is removed, the body can shift toward positive self-regulation. The core message lies not in technique, but in a shift in awareness. Only when people understand and see what exists within them can they accurately reassess their true state of health. The deeper lesson drawn from this content is the recognition that health depends not only on what is brought into the body, but equally on the ability to remove what no longer belongs. In everyday life, this can be applied by paying closer attention to subtle bodily signals, avoiding the assumption that no pain means all is well, and giving proper consideration to elimination as a foundation of long-term health. Application does not require extremism, but begins with understanding and conscious choice. In your opinion, is the sense of being normal you feel today enough to conclude that your body is truly healthy? Please share your thoughts respectfully in the comments. If you would like to explore a more natural, root-focused approach to health and healing, please fill out the form in the description to receive a Healing Health ebook. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit like, and share this video to support us in continuing to deliver valuable and sustainable content for the community.